All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. Alright, hopefully everyone can hear me correctly here. Okay, let's bring the music down a little bit. Just a tad bit. Alright, as stated in the stream title here, we are going to go over Broadcom, or ticker symbol AVGO, right? Broadcom Incorporated. So before we dive into kind of the fundamental part of the analysis, I first want to go over the technical analysis here. So the reason why this ticker was in our CFO report this week, which you guys can actually find by using the second link down below, second link down below in the description box. Okay, if you click on that link, then that will give you the link to subscribe to the report. All right, so you guys should not have any problems with that. So, but if you have any questions, please DM me on Instagram at chartsfocus1. Okay, so with that being said, the reason why I am looking at AVGO this week is that, well, first of all, technically, this one has been staying very, very strong compared to the other semiconductors, even amongst the leaders. So let's not even read what I wrote here from last night, since this was in the report. Okay, let me just do a complete full technical analysis for you guys tonight. So as seen here, when you compare it to, for example, even just the semiconductor sector itself, right, the ETF, right, SMH has been moving down and kind of in a corrective phase. So we've been about, let's see, what's the high, the all-time high? 671.83. So like around here. Yeah, around there. And all, so from the peak to the trough, okay, we have lost around negative 25% in returns on SMH, right, in gains, okay, from the all-time high peak, so peak to trough. And so far we've regained around 19%. We're still in a negative 19%, but we bounced from negative 25 to negative 19%. So that's a relatively good correction there, right? A very brief correction at that. Now, I would say SMH is making some sort of reflect a broader sector here for semiconductors. I know there's a lot of people who are looking at semiconductors, and for a very good reason at that, since we've been running straight up, well, since this entire year began, particularly around April, when the overall market bottom occurred, and they officially became kind of the main leaders in the overall tech sector. I think like 20% of the weight in the S&P 500 itself is semiconductors, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a huge weight. So you know, it makes sense that if semiconductors were to have a relief rally, or at the very least start a new uptrend, you want to be looking at semiconductors and be in them, right? So, and have a position in them. So AVGO popped out to me the most because during the entire correction move that we saw in the semiconductor sector, AVGO individually as a semiconductor leader didn't see a massive move down, and rather it actually corrected itself through its own earnings report. So we had a massive negative 12.59% move to the downside on the earnings day's reaction on June 4th. And guess what? That was also aligned with the overall market correction, market pullback that we saw in the beginning of June as well. So to me, this is very interesting because it allows, it allowed Broadcom to basically pull back before semiconductors decided to really get the ball rolling and pulling back officially. And AVGO was able to do that first initially, right? And instead of correcting deep to the downside, it actually has been moving sideways, and it's been consolidating the actual earnings gap down move. And how do we know that it's been consolidating, guys? How do we know this? Because, well, first of all, let's take away the candlesticks here, right? And even my drawings, right? Do you guys see my SMAs here? So these are my 4 simple moving averages. The daily 10 is my red, the daily 21 my light blue, and the daily 50 the dark blue line, and then my daily 200 my yellow line. And as you guys can see here, after June 4th's big reaction move to the downside, the price has now consolidated in between all of my 4 major SMAs, allowing all of my 4 major SMAs to start to entangle with one another, right? Especially my daily 10 and daily 21 SMAs here, right? My short-term pairs. But at the same time, we haven't seen the daily 50 SMA and the daily 200 SMA as close to each other since right here, right? And guess what? This here that we're seeing now is similar to what we saw over here, right? At the beginning of 2026. Right, do you see how close everything got to each other, and everything became very entangled until we had that massive breakout? So now if you bring back the price here, okay, the candlesticks, you can see that we're kind of building a similar chart pattern here. And that specific chart pattern is a descending channel. And a descending channel is bullish, right? It's inherently bullish. Excuse me, guys, I'm drinking some water. So, with this descending channel, what we have here clearly underscores the fact that sellers are able to push the price below the daily 200 SMA, which has fully caught up to the price after this massive move up higher earlier this year, which is again around the same time the broader sector, the semiconductor sector, began to take off. Right, so obviously the AVGO follows suit since it is a leader in the semiconductor sector. But again, the price action kind of diverged away from the group, away from the sector, when it decided to gap down hard on earnings, right? I mean, the price really became a little bit too extreme to the upside, overextended to the upside as well. So it really didn't surprise me when I saw AVGO gapping down on earnings report, which is again, it was a blowout earnings report, which we will go over as well with the numbers here. But this simple consolidation has resulted in the stock having a nice descending channel, and that's the reason why I am looking at it this week. And luckily for us, today's candlestick resulted in a very nice bullish hammer candlestick. Now, the only thing that I do not like about this specific candlestick is that the volume, right? The volume is very, very low and has been stair-stepping down ever since the post-OPEX candlestick. And that is something that I think is very interesting to look at because, or at least note, because you would expect to see today's candlestick or even Friday's candlestick to have higher volume. And why is that? Well, first of all, if you take a look, so now we're doing very, very close examination on the daily time frame candlesticks, and this is very, very useful as you guys do your technical analysis, right? You guys should be going from the bigger picture perspectives, the time frames here, to the lower time frames, to the smaller details and the nuanced details in order to get a better picture as to how you should be trading in the stock market, right? Or any other tickers out there. And again, I've been trying to refocus my attention to kind of giving you guys the fundamentals of technical analysis, since I have gotten a lot of questions lately on just overall technical analysis and just trying to understand how to formulate better or even perfect trading game plans that you can execute with ease, right? So I'm going to give you guys all that today as well too. So the reason why I'm kind of, it's a little sussy. It's a little sus, right? Where you see the price kind of having these wide ranges. Yes, AVGO has a high beta, right, relative to the markets. I believe the beta for AVGO, let me see. Let me actually give you guys a number. The value here. Yeah, so AVGO has a beta of 1.47 compared to, again, the benchmark value of the S&P 500, which again we go off of that number, is 1. So this one definitely is a bit more volatile than the overall market, right? And I believe, it says it here on Google, it's historically about 47% more volatile than the overall baseline market index, right? And that's why. That's what the beta is saying, right? The beta value, so of 1.47. So this is really curious to me because, yes, this might be indicating that maybe we have a very low volume run up, a nice melt up out of this bullish descending channel. But yeah, you also have to remember that each of these trading days we had massive ranges and massive losses and gains of momentum from both sides, from bulls and bears. All right, so we have, for example, on Friday, actually for both Friday and today, we have a very long wick on the downside here, right? The bottom wick, right? The bottom shadow or bottom wick, right? And it's interesting because this wick at the bottom here, these two wicks clearly indicate that sellers lost momentum and they gave in to the bulls who bid the price back up higher. And so you would expect to see that on each of these two separate scenarios that sellers were pretty much in control of the tape until buyers completely pivoted the price and regained control of the tape, and we saw the price bid back up higher. And so if you had two groups here that are basically again in control of the bid and the ask spread, you would expect to see a bit more volume, especially on days where we have these very long bottom wicks or lower wicks or lower shadows, and you'll be expecting to see at least an increase in volume, especially like a day like today, right? Where we saw the overall semiconductor sector pivot as well, along with this AVGO individual semiconductor name pivoting as well. Does that make sense? Right? So, to me, I think this is something to note, right? Take note of. But at the same time, I'm not too worried because of the fact that yes, we still have a very bullish candlestick. I mean, this is a very bullish price action that we saw today. And we just take a look at the 15-minute time frame, right? I mean, we saw the lows hitting right at the market open, and immediately we pivoted away once we began to get very close to the vicinity of this 374 whole number support level on the daily time frame. So this pivot here clearly demonstrated that bulls regained control, and throughout the entirety of today, we saw bulls continuously bidding the price up higher and not allowing bears or shorts to have any room to pivot back to the downside at any resistance levels. For example, there's a clear level of resistance at 390, okay, and the intraday resistance here, right? So tomorrow, if you do pull back early in the morning, just like what we saw today, I would expect the price to pivot early around 390 and use it as a new level of intraday support. And guess what? This is also going to be near the intraday 21 SMA here, which is slowly catching up to the price. And so far overnight, we're at 391, and I believe earlier I did see 390 0.50ish around there, right? So if you do see a retest of 390 tomorrow, okay, make sure I make that level a little bit more precise. Okay, so if we do see a retest there, I would love to get in, right? Especially if we do see a pivot at 390 along with the coinciding 15-minute 21 SMA right here, this light blue line. Okay, so there you have it with the daily time frame and the intraday time frame analysis. Now, what's also interesting is that as the volume is drying up, I'm also taking into note that even if we did close over the daily 10 and daily 21 SMAs, okay, it's also interesting to note that we are right underneath the daily 50 SMA, and it's been a huge caveat for bulls ever since we've gapped down on earnings day, right, on the earnings day reaction. So to me, this clearly indicates that there is a lot of heavy supply at this daily 50 SMA, which should not come to surprise. Well, it shouldn't be a surprise at all to anyone who understands what SMAs do, or just overall moving averages, right? It doesn't matter if you're using even EMAs. If you have like a long-term EMA on the daily time frame, and the price is sitting below that long-term EMA, you should understand that there are significant supply or significant amount of sellers sitting at that long-term EMA or SMA, like we do here with the SMA that I have on the 50. So to me, this could just be a simple drying up of sellers as the price continues to get very close and sticks very close underneath this daily 50 SMA. So I would expect to see, as we see this volume stair-stepping lower, okay, I want to see a very brief jump tomorrow if and only if we see a retest of 390 and we pivot away from it. And once we're able to pivot away from it, if we're able to see increasing volume on the intraday as we head towards the next major level of resistance at 394.50, then and only then would I be looking for a larger breakout to the upside, because at that point, if you have a larger amount of buying volume coming in, and how do they know it's going to be buying volume? Well, if the price continues to move up higher, very, very simple, very logical there. We will be seeing the price hitting the daily 50 SMA and the 394.50 level. Okay, they're coinciding here, right? We're seeing a lot of coinciding and converging areas here. 394.50 resistance level with the daily 50 SMA. I would expect a broader breakout. And so that brings me into, and that should tie in with the entry points that I gave everyone. Okay, 395.10, right? And the reason why I say 395.10 is that, well, I would want to see a bit further confirmation, and 60 cents more to the upside from 394.50 won't hurt, right? It can clearly tell us whether or not the price really wants to stay above the daily 50 SMA, right? And if that does occur, right, then I would love to see a very impulsive breakout and reaction back to the upside until we hit $400, which we hit last Friday and rejected off of it, and break over that $400 level, creating a higher high, and eventually hitting 406, which is my weekly target for AVGO. That's right, we are hitting 406, and well, if we do hit 406, that will be my weekly maximum price target, right? And the reason why I say that is that, well, if you guys didn't know, let me give you guys a quick technical lesson here regarding SMAs. Okay, whenever we break out, especially whenever we break out of a long-term SMA like the daily 50 SMA, we tend to have a very impulsive move upwards, right? Since obviously, okay, guys, obviously I'm talking about an uptrend, so please don't get confused here. But we tend to have an impulsive reaction to the upside as we break over the daily 50 SMA. Hey, do nothing. Thank you. So when we see that breakout, the impulsive move, we tend to continue to bid up higher and higher until, again, the magnet level is retested. So maybe it's at 400 tomorrow, maybe it's at 406 by the end of the week. Ideally, it will be for me. But once that is achieved, we tend to see rapid amount of profit taking occurring as the price recorrects its impulsive move, right? Its impulsive action. And how does it recorrect that impulsive action? By pulling back down and retesting the daily 50 SMA. Okay, so what does that mean for our potential trade tomorrow, right? Since I'm going to be focusing on this tomorrow to see if I can get an entry point. That means I want to be able to make sure I am managing my profits as I take profits into strength. Again, ideally, hopefully, not even just ideally, we can get a nice entry point tomorrow and we get a nice move up higher and over the daily 50 SMA. I'll be managing my profits as we're moving up higher, selling into strength, and making sure I remind myself that this impulsive reaction, if we do see it, once we break over the daily 50 SMA, I should be aware that we can be seeing a quick snap back down as this recorrection occurs of this impulsive move to the upside. All right, so as long as we see that nice breakout tomorrow over 394.50 and the daily 50 SMA, we should be good to go. So again, you know, we could either be seeing a nice pivot at 390 tomorrow, right? Or we could be seeing a nice breakout over 394.50. All right, you guys have your two choices there, right? But this is a very critical 4.50 range that I'm looking at for tomorrow. Okay, so that's it for the technical analysis. And as a bonus here, we do have the RSI. Okay, and the reason why I'm showing you guys the RSI is that the RSI is a momentum indicator, right? And so far, it's sitting at the optimal range, is what I like to call it, right? Between 40 and 60. But right now, as we're seeing this stock consolidate into a nice descending channel, the price, right, has clearly allowed the RSI to fully calm down and tighten up. And right now, it's getting very, very tight at the 50, the midpoint range for the RSI, right? 50, right? And the reason why this is the midpoint range is that, well, if you look 20 values up, right, 20 points up, we have the overbought range at 70. And if you look 20 points below 50, we have the oversold range value here, right, 30. So why is this important, right? So if you guys don't know anything about the RSI, well, this is indicating that some sort of a squeeze, a momentum shift is about to happen. And seeing how the RSI line is oscillating and trying to stay over 50 is telling me personally, right, this is my reading here of the RSI, that momentum is starting to flip to the upside, and potentially we can see a nice big reaction to the upside as the RSI also reacts to the overall price momentum to the upside. Does that make sense? Right? So this close proximity to the value of 50 is clearly telling us that there is about to be a shift in momentum, and that's what we saw last time in April, right? So we saw the price kind of consolidating here, and obviously there was a lot more volatility due to the overall markets also affecting the semiconductor leader, and eventually we saw, again, that dip that we saw in late March, and obviously we saw a nice big push up higher at the beginning of April. But as we pivoted up higher, just for example, on April 6th, we saw the RSI getting very close and sticking close to the value of 50 once more. So I'm expecting the same type of reaction to occur. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know by reacting or commenting or liking. So if you guys are just joining in, make sure you guys hit that like button down below as well. And again, do not think, thank you very much. Okay, so with that being said, let's go over right now. Let's go over the most boring part that I think is the most boring part of the stream, which is going to be fundamentals, right? So as you guys already know, I like to use a website that I like to use, right? But instead of showing you guys that first, I'm going to give you guys some of the notes that I made when I was looking into the most recent data points for Broadcom, right? So first of all, after its most recent earnings report, okay, Broadcom has had some very, very significant AI growth. I mean, what semiconductor company hasn't had an AI growth story this year, right? Because again, it's the AI chips that really powers the overall AI industry, right? If you don't have AI chips, well, nothing's gonna work regarding AI. And again, any AI platforms aren't going to work if they don't have the AI chips, right, running them and processing the information and the data, right? So the AI revenue for Broadcom exploded this year. I believe this is the second quarter earnings results for I think so, right? Let me see, make sure. Yeah, okay. So there's the second quarter earnings report for Broadcom, and their specific semiconductor for AI, right? That revenue reached 10.8 billion, right, dollars, and that's like I believe that's over 140%. Okay, if you guys take a look at the total revenue that was reported, which is, again, it beat the estimates here. Okay, it says 22.19 billion, and out of that 22.19 billion total in revenue, the AI semiconductor revenue, which is a bit more specific in the overall revenue, reached 10.8 billion dollars. So that's almost half of the total revenue reported for the second quarter. So that's huge, right? And even more so, right? They've actually increased the guidance of next quarter's AI semiconductor revenue to 16 billion. So that's over half of the reported revenue that we saw in the second quarter. And in the third quarter, right, which I don't think they have estimates here, right? That's, again, almost half of the estimate of the revenue for the third quarter, right? So 16 billion, and they're actually expecting a little over 16 billion as well. And that's what they said in the quarterly earnings report. So that's insane, first of all, right? So it looks like, again, AI is clearly a huge beneficiary for these companies that are supplying the overall AI arms race. And what's also interesting, okay, the overall fiscal year of 2026, okay, what did I say, what did I read here, what did I write here, actually, it's kind of messy here, my apologies. Okay, I know what I wrote here. So it says, their AI revenue is expected to year over year, so for the entire year of 2026, to hit 56 billion. Okay, and on top of that, for next year, the entire year, so they gave this guidance for during the second quarterly earnings results, right, on this day, on June 3rd, after hours. They said that for next year, they're expecting that to nearly double. That's right, they're saying that they're gonna be seeing $100 billion from AI semiconductor sales. That is insane. All right, that's absolutely insane. So it looks like every industry is needing these AI chips because everyone is pivoting towards AI. And so Broadcom clearly is a major leader since everyone is demanding these chips from this specific company alone, where they're able to guide double, right, the sales, and even its nearly double the total amount of revenue, right, or half of the revenue, excuse me. So again, in this second quarter, they had a revenue of $10.8 billion, which is nearly half of the total revenue that they reported of $22 billion. Okay, so that's insane, right? Now, the next thing that I want to look at, right, is they have a very good profit margin, operating profit at that as well, right? Is the operating margin sitting at 67%. That's over 50%, which is always good to see. You want to see a company having at least an operating margin that's, again, profitable at that too, having an operating margin over 50%, and they're sitting at 67%. So that's really good top line growth, right? Especially with this AI semiconductor sales, right? That's the top line growth, right? And so this company is just rock solid. Okay, now with all that being said, okay, their fundamentals just truly clearly, let me show you guys here. I mean, just take a look at this, right? My apologies for all these drawings here. So the fundamentals clearly align with how the price action has been for Broadcom. I mean, look at this massive move apart. I mean, they even needed to have a stock split, 10/1. If you guys remember, Broadcom was near $1,000. If you guys don't remember, okay, and it reached $1,000 around here, right? So, you know, yeah. I mean, just take a look at this. It's 10/1 split. So just add another 0 here. So it was about like $1,600 right before the split. So again, shares are clearly demonstrating that there's a lot more market cap to achieve, right? The market valuation of this company can continue to increase as their overall fundamental metrics continue to grow, especially the growth fundamental metrics. So with all that being said, right, you know, their overall chips, right, especially when it comes to their custom AI chips, again, a lot of these semiconductor companies have been just focusing on their own custom AI chips and providing them and selling them to other companies has been massive. The demand for them has been massive, and Broadcom has been able to capture that, not only because of the fact that they're a legacy semiconductor company. I mean, they've been really just an overall network company as well for chips, right? Networking chips. They just truly proved themselves that they are able to pivot to new technology, right? New AI technology chips that is needed for a new age of technology. So they're clearly a major leader, which is the reason why I found it very interesting this week when I was looking at semiconductors throughout, individual semiconductors throughout the sector, that AVGO really was holding quite strong throughout the entirety of the market correction that we've been seeing from June to July. Okay, so now let me bring out Koifin here, my favorite. Okay, let's see. And overnight, it seems like AVGO is moving quite nice here. It's slightly pivoting, I think. Yeah, SMH is starting to move up higher too. Now, guys, before I dive a little deeper using Koifin here, I also want to give you guys, let's see, a little warning. Okay, so with SMH, as you guys know, we went from a negative 25% correction to about negative 19% correction with this bounce. This very brief rally that we saw. The reason why I say it's brief is that, well, today we officially marked the lower low and the lower high with the close. So yes, that's not usually a good bullish sign, but at the same time, I mean, we could still be in the very midst of a nice V-shaped recovery, right? Who knows? We might be seeing something like this, right, where we break out, okay, back to the upside and start a new uptrend. Who knows, right? We could be seeing this, right? We could stay optimistic with the overall semiconductor sector, and maybe this is just a regular bounce, right, back to maybe negative 10% from the peak here, right? So again, the peak to trough was about negative 25%, and so far we ended at negative 19% from peak to today's closing price. So maybe you might want to see at least maybe a retest of the daily 50 SMA, or maybe at least we want to see a negative 10%, right? So again, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is here, I would say just be careful, because again, we did make a lower high and lower low. So make sure you guys see the overall sector and see how it's doing first before you take a look and before you decide to take a stab at AVGO. Since again, this one's starting to really move with the overall semiconductor sector. And again, the reason why I say that is that, well, that's been kind of diverging away from the overall sector as it's consolidated quite well. But as the semiconductor sector as a whole began to bounce, this one is on the verge of its own breakout, right? Sitting right below this descending resistance trend line that makes up the overall descending channel chart pattern. Okay, so that is why I'm saying that, you know, it would make sense and it would be prudent for you guys to take a look at the overall sector first and how it's doing early in the morning after market open, to see how AVGO, to determine whether or not you want to take a stab at AVGO. Okay, so here it is, Koifin. Let's look at my own template that I made for you guys. Oh, well, I made for myself, but I made for you guys as well. You guys can follow suit using your own free Koifin account. So, I mean, take a look at this. Look at that free cash flow. Oh my goodness, right? I mean, this company, they've increased their capex, right? I mean, you guys can clearly see that even with their total debt too. We saw a nice big jump in the total debt as they began to really focus on AI chips, and 2024 and 2023 was kind of the 2 years where semiconductors had to pivot, especially the leadership in the semiconductor sector. They really need to focus on pivoting their attention towards making custom AI chips within their own house, right? And that's kind of where we saw total debt rising across all leading semiconductor companies. But either way, even with the total debt increase, right, we saw cash and short-term investments actually improving this year. Yes, they're very low compared to the total debt, so this is not a good ratio here to be looking at. But I would have to say they do have a solid amount of cash and short-term investments on hand, and we've seen a nice increase the last 2 quarters, including this quarter. So this is well, right? This is very, very nice. Gross profit margins are great. Like I said, 76%. Excuse me. The operating margins were 67%, but the gross profit margins are at 76%, right? So quite the opposite there. But really, very, very strong profit margins. The management knows what they're doing. They're not just spending money left and right. How do we know this? Well, free cash flow has been steadily increasing. This is a semiconductor powerhouse, right? If they wanted to pivot to something else, maybe they are starting to looking at maybe quantum chips, if that becomes a thing in the next decade. I'm sure they'll be able to pivot into that new role, right? As we start to move a leap behind the overall AI chips, right? The custom AI chips that they've been making. Okay, so I also do want to take a look at, they do have CapEx. Let's take a look at CapEx, the percentage of revenue here. Yes, the quarters. Right, look at that, 1.04%. Okay, so again, this company really just they know what they're doing, right? So again, overall, just this entire metrics that I've used here, they're clearly telling us to not underestimate what Broadcom is doing. Okay, so hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Alright, so that's the reason why I really think from a technical and fundamental perspective, this is kind of the, well, the next semi stock to buy, right? And this is the reason why I think AVGO, Broadcom, is so strong from a technical and fundamental perspective. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense, guys. Okay, perfect. Alright, well, that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you guys understood my technical perspective and my fundamental perspective as well. So again, if you guys want to use Koifin, right, it's free. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. You know, it's free. I like to use it, and this is my own. Hey, Bueller, thank you. So this is just my overall metrics that I like to have. Right, this is the very quick snapshot that I like to have when I'm just researching a company, right? And again, I mean, to be honest, AVGO was a pretty easy company to be a little bit more bullishly biased towards, because again, if you have been trading in the markets for a while, you know AVGO is a very, very fundamental semiconductor company, and it's a major leader in the semiconductor sector, right? I mean, I've known this since I began even trading, right? This is one of the first few tickers that came up when I was taking a look at the semiconductor stock sector back in 2018. So again, you know, yeah, so AVGO, there's that. Okay, so hopefully this, well, let's see, this is like 38 minutes or so now. So hopefully this stream was a pretty good dive into AVGO or Broadcom Incorporated, both from a technical and a fundamental analysis perspective. All right, so again, if you guys ever need a quick check to AVGO from a technical or fundamental perspective, just come back to this live stream replay. Okay, and make sure you guys hit that like button down below. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me out, push out my content to people who aren't subscribed to the channel. And if you are watching right now and if you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. sharing this stream is even better. But if you guys aren't subscribed and if you guys really liked what you heard tonight, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well to know when I am live. I tend to be live on Mondays and Wednesdays around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I highly recommend you guys to hit that notification bell either way. Okay, all right, well, that is it for me tonight, guys. I really want to go over this ticker that I had in my CFO report. So make sure you guys check out the report itself by clicking on the second link down below in the description box. Hopefully I can see you guys become a reader this week and joining me in the private CFO Discord chat room. Either way, this analysis should be helpful if we were to get a nice entry point tomorrow to the upside, because again, I am overall bullishly biased to the upside. Alright. Okay, well, have a great rest of your night, guys. Hopefully, I will see you guys on Wednesday at the same time. Have a great rest of your night and good luck tomorrow.